Stephen Mangan, finally.
It's been a long time coming.
Wow, we were trying to work out how many, because you are easily our most washed out and cancelled guest.
I don't know what it is about me. Every time I agree to come on the show and look forward to coming on the show, the heavens open and it rains. I think this is the fourth or fifth time.
It's nothing. Do you think it's that many?
Something like that, yeah. So
I mean, it's nothing personal.
Well,
I promise you.
You know, you do. I was at Lord's actually early this year, and I did volunteer to come along on the Saturday. But you had somebody else. You had
the Prime Minister. Yeah. No, I'm sorry about that.
How bumped for the Prime Minister.
Well, we could, if I'd known you were there, Stephen, I'd have moved Mr. Sunak to one side.
We could have split it, couldn't we?
You could easily have split it. But hey, well, look, you're here, and that's fantastic. And I've just been obviously doing some stuff. I know how much you love your cricket, which we'll talk about in a moment. But first, what are you making of this game?
Well, what is going? I mean, how are we losing this series for a start?
I don't know. Ask Jim Maxwell; he'll tell you.
I mean, apart from the Manchester weather, we just look so dominant, and this scoring 130 runs in a session is what? Is that what we're going to have to expect from now on? It's extraordinary, because I think always 100 runs in a session was always considered a very, very good morning, wasn't it?
Well, you're a bit younger than me, but though you probably go back to the days when, I know, Boycott and Edgeworth we pushed out, and good luck, lads. See you at lunch, 50 for no wicket.
Yep, Tavaret, absolutely.
Yes.
Those days,
I
had a geography teacher when I was about 10 or 11 who put the cricket on during geography lessons, knowing that none of us would watch it because nothing would happen for vast periods of time. And then we'd all look up every 10 minutes and someone would have pushed a single to cover and run.
So he actually had it on in the lesson?
He had it on in the lesson, Mr. Hallam, he was an absolute cricket nut, and one of the reasons why I think I enjoy the game so much. But yeah, he would. No geography was done when England were playing cricket during the summer.
That's brilliant.
It's good, isn't it?
When you hear stories of people listening or whatever, but actually have the telly on.
This would have been in the late 70s, I suppose. 79, 80, that kind of period. So occasionally there was some excitement.
Yeah. Not as much as this, though. I mean, I think even those players. Well, actually, probably Ian both wouldn't concede that it's more entertaining now than him. But even so, I mean, the way they're playing their cricket it's extraordinary, isn't it?
The way they're playing the cricket, and the fact that, because we were all wondering, I don't know if you knew that Stokes would be coming in at 3, but we were all wondering who was going to come out at 3.
Sort of whispered it.
Was that the rumour?
It whispered.
I mean, what a crowd pleaser that is.
Yeah.
And how set up we are for the rest of the day. I mean, I know the forecast isn't great for Monday, is it? But I mean, I don't want to jinx it, but what a great position we're in at the moment.
Do you? I mean, it's easy to say that you like Bazball, but do you see the risks of Bazball?
I think Bazball can be very frustrating. I mean, it's wonderful to watch when it's working, and it's very exciting to see England playing on the front foot like that, and intimidating teams. Intimidating teams like Australia have just won the World Test Championship. You think they genuinely are slightly freaked out by the way we're playing, and you've got to admire that. It's when it just tips, and it's a fine line, and I understand that line, I mean, it seems to be about individual responsibility. Cricket is a kind of individual game within a team sport anyway, but they seem to be leaving it up to the individual batsman to play in the way that they think is most effective, and sometimes that it does get contagious, that slightly reckless play. And some of the first innings, even in this series, you just think we've squandered a few runs here.
Yes.
But they seem to, as the series have got on, just got that balance better and better between aggression, staying on the right side of recklessness. And I think the way we're going about it this morning, I mean, again, that first ball 4, and just looking to score all the time, looking to rotate. We're sitting over there at sort of deep square leg.
Oh, yes.
And we enjoyed watching Travis Head having to run from third man back every time the strike got rotated. So I
know. Well, it's interesting that you've detected that they've changed a bit, because I battled with Ben Stokes before this game to just concede that they just tweaked things a little bit.
Yeah,
he wouldn't say it, but they have, haven't they?
They have, and I think that seems to be a sort of mentality thing where they're not going to allow that doubt in. They're just going to say, we're going to go for it. Sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't. And I think to come along and say, well, should you try a different route? I think they're trying to sort of almost get rid of that little man on the shoulder saying you're not doing it quite right, and just having confidence that of all the talented cricketers in the team, one of them will come good in each innings, or at least 1 or 2 or 3, and score some runs. And that seems to have happened so far.
And in a way, watching Labuschagne and Australia back yesterday morning adds fuel to England's argument of saying, what's the point of hanging around all that time? Labuschagne, he was 80 odd balls for his 9.
Yeah.
What's the point? 80 balls.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's not entertaining. The only thing I suppose you could imagine them discussing, and I don't know if they've done this, but England's pace attack isn't the youngest. If we make them bowl, England are going to bat for a short period of time. They're going to get on with it. They're going to score at 5 runs and over. So are they looking to create a tired England bowling attack for the 4th innings?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a risky strategy if that is the strategy.
It is. It's a good point, though.
Yeah, and will Anderson and Broad, will they all run out of steam? Because obviously Wood can't bowl that many. Seem to have lost our spinner.
Yeah.
What's the word on him? Is there
unlikely to bowl? I think
unlikely to bowl. So yeah, they're going to have to do a lot of work. Stokes, will he bowl? That's the other big question, I suppose. He doesn't seem to.
Because he's bowling his off spinners in the nets.
Right. Okay.
Well, he might bowl his off spin. You never know with Ben. But yeah, you're right. I mean,
but we're lucky to have Root as well. We've got Joe Root there, who seems to be holding his own pretty well.
Yeah. It's so set up for a brilliant couple of days. What's your favourite era of English cricket? I mean, would it be this? Because what they've achieved is remarkable.
I think it has to
be.
Yeah, I think this cricket, the type of cricket we're playing at the moment, we've Wood and Wokes coming into the team seem like brand new players, even though they've both been around for a while. Sort of discovered them again, rediscovered them in this series. I think it's hard to beat, isn't it? You've got attacking talent like Stokes and Brooke and Pope when he's fit. We seem to have found a pair of openers that can actually put some runs on the board before losing a wicket, which we haven't done for a long time. I mean, the 2 greatest fast bowlers or medium fast bowlers of all time. You could. Glenn McGrath's not here, is he?
No, he'll let you know if he hears.
Well, potentially. I mean, it's certainly a number of wickets, so it's very hard not. This is thrilling cricket, and long may it continue.
Yeah. Do you feel a sort of a one-day limited overs influence into it as well? I mean, do you like one-day cricket?
I do like one-day cricket. I don't watch as much of it. You definitely do. You see in the variety of shots that are played, the ramp and the reverse sweep, and you see it in the fielding, the way Stokes took that catch on the boundary. That would have once upon a time been, once in a decade kind of manoeuvre.
That would have been 6.
Yeah. But now the fielders know how to do that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I think we do. And I think for the better, I might even say. I think, the aggression, the fast scoring, the intent that they've taken from one-day cricket and 2020 cricket, and the fielding prowess as well, I think that's all good. But, there is no finer. I mean, it's an extraordinary game, cricket, isn't it? You can have all these different formats.
Yes.
I can't think of any other sport. They all work.
Yeah.
I can't think of any other sport that can be played in with different rules under different conditions and different time spans and still work. As well as, I think one of the things I also love about cricket, and I can't think of another sport where this happens, is that at the highest level that the sport is played, the cricketers have to come out and do stuff they're really not very good at. I mean, in what other sport would you see a batsman come out who doesn't know how to bat? I mean, Tuffers isn't here either, but another one.
No.
The comedy involved in that is fantastic.
Well, it was. I mean, and you're absolutely right. I mean, we were actually having this conversation last night with David Gower, my old captain. And the times that he would try on our car journeys to tell me how to play the short pitch ball. And he'd say, let's go look at the hand, John. Let's look at the hand. Let's go there. It's a full-length ball, a little bit lower. It's a bounce. That's all you got to do. You know what to do. But I said, David, I can't see it.
No, can't see it.
He just could not. He couldn't actually understand that.
Yeah.
And he would just say, well, I can't help you. And off you go out to your own devices. Facing someone like Sylvester Clarke here, when he's playing for Surrey, it's terrifying.
It's also why sometimes the very best players don't make the best coaches, because they just can't understand. I mean, look at Glenn Hoddle in football. He couldn't understand why people couldn't do what he did.
He can't put it into words. Perhaps.
Can't put it into words. He would say, look, just do this, and he'd get the ball and do it himself. And they go, well, good for you, but I can't do that.
No, it's absolutely true. Have you ever faced anything that was fast by your standards? Have you actually been out there batting and thinking, I'm not sure I can really see this.
Yeah, faced at sort of at the level I played at that felt fast, but I mean, I just can have no idea what it must be like. I haven't tried this bowling machine that replicates great balls in history.
It does. Well, I can show you some footage of how you deal with facing Mitchell Johnson, if you like.
Oh, really?
It helps to have been... Well, actually, you mentioned Tuffers. Tuffers forewarned me.
Right.
Of what was to come. No, but
so you don't know you're getting the worn ball.
you know you're getting. Yes, you know, but you don't know when it's coming.
Oh, I see.
And you should do it.
I will.
They'd love you down there. There's a big crowd.
Really?
Yeah. I mean,
that's slightly
Mitchell
terrifying.
Johnson.
Yeah.
He had to go. It makes very
Did you
ordinary
clonk him
batsmen.
back over his head?
Well, along the ground.
Okay.
I controlled it.
Right. Good.
It makes ordinary batsmen look rather good.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I've seen footage of Brett Lee bowling at Piers Morgan, which
did you
is
see that?
quite enjoyable because you could see how
I was
awful
there.
that was.
I was there.
Yeah. Did he actually get hurt?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Regrettably. His bowler actually ran through the crease.
Did he?
Yeah, his bowler for 18 yards. I mean, I thought Piers was mad, to be honest.
Yes, that is crazy.
It just shows, however much club cricket or anything you play, this is different.
Yeah, it is.
I remember I took Glenn McGrath into our pub at the start of this summer. He came and stayed with me, and you've got the usual people in there, who know all about club cricket and so on. And Glenn walked in, and just silence. The size of him. You know what I mean? You think it's just a different.
And it's not very far, is it?
No.
About 22 yards. It does feel.
Well, you definitely need to go down there and give it a go.
Get my pads on.
Yeah. Who's your favourite? If you had to nominate your favourite cricketer, I'm thinking your time span, and would it be both of them, or is it Stokes?
I started off as a Gower fan.
Gower?
I mean, that was like a lot of people I hear on View for the Boundary. My first test was that Lord's Test in 1981. Sitting on the grass between the boundary rope and the stands with my scorebook. Scored the whole thing.
The proper little one.
Yeah, does anyone do that anymore? I don't see anyone doing that, which it makes me feel that I was maybe a bit weird.
No, I think I think people do still do it.
Yeah.
That little fold-up book.
Little fold-up book.
Yeah,
and every now and again you jump up if someone hit the ball towards you and try and be the one that
it
caught
was very special, wasn't it?
As it popped over there. It was fantastic.
Was that the first time you'd been to Lord's?
That was the first time I'd been to any cricket match. It was the second day of that Lord's Test. And so, Gower was my guy in that from that period, from England. His elegance and his style, and just the whole sort of myth around his lifestyle, the tiger moths and the frozen lakes.
It's not a myth. I'll let you know that.
He just was, extraordinary.
Yes,
he was of epitome of cool.
Yes, and very. I mean, I was going to ask him last night actually if practice would have made much difference to him, because he didn't practice very much.
No,
he only ever went for a net if he was in really pretty ordinary form. Otherwise, he'd just have a few little throwdowns on the side, just play it a few times.
And no fitness work.
Very little.
No. Wow.
They just go back to the Telegraph crossword, and you'd sit and do that. What was it like watching Dennis Lilly from grass level as a youngster?
Side on.
Oh,
yeah, incredible. I mean, he didn't take any wickets that match, as far as I'm aware, or that innings anyway. But this, again, the charisma. And I think I would have been 12 at that point.
That's been amazing.
These guys are gods, aren't
Yes,
they?
they are.
They're just the natural charisma they have when they appear on the field, and especially Lilly with his shirt billowing.
Yeah, the gold chain guy.
Yeah, the gold chain, and coming in and just inhuman speed. And of course, from side on, the ball looks like it's travelling twice as fast as it does from the end. So lovely. I mean, a great star, and lucky to sort of. And of course, that summer exploded. And I think there are those seminal series, the 2005, hopefully this one. I mean, we were deprived the ultimate showdown, but there are those certain series that really sort of capture the mood of the country, and I think recruit a whole load of new cricket fans. And I was certainly one of them in 1981.
And that was the Botham pair game, wasn't it? Where he actually walked off at the end of the members.
He lost the captaincy, didn't he? Yeah.
Did you get any grip of that then, or not?
Not really, because I think those sort of politics are kind of beyond you when you're first discovering the game. I mean, I've got my son Frank here with me, and I've been busy just in his ear. I don't know if he's bored with me, but all morning, because knowing who the personalities are, knowing what their traits are, knowing the fact that Crawley's nickname is Creepy, for example, all those little details, they kind of help, don't they? Otherwise, it's just lots of men running around in a vast green space.
Is he getting Test cricket? There's a lot of kids around. I noticed yesterday when I was out the back. There's a lot of young kids here.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's an easy sell.
It is when you score 130 runs in a morning.
Yes.
If we were 50 for naught, it would have been a much more difficult sell. But there's always something going on. And now Stokes is out there as well. So, I think so. We'd have to ask him. But thumbs up. Yeah, thumbs up. Frank at the back there.
The TMS Podcast.
Take the Ashes with you this summer. Hear every ball live on BBC Sounds. 72 Plus on the Football Daily Podcast with Aaron Paul.
Yes, the 72 Plus is back on the Football Daily Podcast as we see the return of the new EFL football season. Join me and Joby McAnuff.
You get the tap on the shoulder, right, go warm up. And I'm thinking, oh, Kafa, come on, man. I think we're like 3 or 4-0 down at this point.
And a host of guests every Friday afternoon as we turn the spotlight on the Football League.
Who did you sign?
Jan Vennego of Hesselink. We couldn't get it on the back of a shirt, that's for sure.
Your chairman put letters up to £4 a letter, didn't he? In the
He
club
did.
shop?
From the Championship to League Two and the National Leagues, we'll bring you the biggest names, the biggest interviews and the biggest stories across the football pyramid. 72 Plus on the Football Daily Podcast. Listen and subscribe on BBC Sounds.
So you yourself playing, you talk about your geography teacher.
Yeah.
And the television in classroom.
Yeah.
So what was the young man?
I was a
What
batsman
right.
and an off-spin bowler. I was a beautiful. I mean, I had elegance, high
Did you?
elbows.
Right.
I looked like a dream.
Did you?
Never hit the ball, but I had elegant. I had it all. I mean, if you saw me without the ball, I had a beautiful square cut.
Yeah.
I could flick it off my ankles and on drive. But always playing down the wrong line.
So
always
why
playing over the top of the ball.
Why was that?
I think I was just more concerned with looking good than actually really watching the ball. You know, there's cricketers who look agricultural, but they
Yes.
are laser focused on the ball and they always seem to hit it. I was just too busy trying to look like David Gower. I think it's all his fault.
Right. Was that the sort of the actoring side of you coming out already?
Maybe I was playing the part of a cricketer without actually, because of course, I mean, I've played a professional tennis player in a film, and it doesn't matter where the ball goes in a film because as long as you look like you're hitting the ball like a professional, you never actually see the ball because it's whizzed past the camera. So I think it was that sort of, look the part, but hopeless. I mean, I started at number 6, started at number 5, and I ended up at number 8 as the series went on.
Could you have acted being a batsman? Because so some of the stuff you do occasionally see a cricket in a film, don't you?
Yeah.
And there was that Bodyline series,
Yes.
of course, that was brilliant back in the day. I used to love watching that. And they were obviously absolutely hopeless cricketers.
It's frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whenever you see sports, big sports events shown on film, you just pray that the people can vaguely look like they know what they're doing. I mean, when I played the tennis player in a film called Confetti, we had a professional tennis player and he said, right, you can do a forehand, you can do a backhand, and you can do a forehand volley. Don't do a serve.
Right.
That doesn't look real, but the rest you're getting away with. So I think the same with cricketers. You need to... I mean, it's horrendous when you see someone coming in pretending to be Jardine.
Well, it does.
And they clearly have never seen a cricket ball in their life.
I mean, Harold Larwood in that. I mean, it's a lovely series, but they clearly got as far as coal miner Harold Larwood, and he must have had size 15 feet. The chap who played, who came running in and bowled as Harold Larwood. But it was still a great. It was still a great series.
I was in a play at school, Outside Edge. You know that play?
Yes.
Yes. So I did that when I played. That, but that's all set in the pavilion, so we never actually got out there. But that's the only cricket-related
really
thing.
popular.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Probably mid-80s.
Yes. Oh gosh, I might have been in that as well. So, any particular landmarks? I mean, notable achievements in this career in which you
The cricket career.
Yes.
Not really. I mean, I had a team for about 10 years in my 20s. Comprised mainly of actors and musicians and writers,
That's nice.
and trying to get 11 actors to all turn up at the right time on a Sunday morning in the right place is a headache. Let me put it. We used to play the Bank of England ground quite a lot down at Roehampton, which is very nice. And we played lots of things. I played with Harold Pinter a few times.
Did you really?
Yes.
He was legendary with his cricket.
Terrifying.
I never met him.
Absolutely
Was he?
terrifying. I stood next to him in the slips, and the bowler ball down. I think I applauded and said, nice one. And he turned to me and said, are you going to do that all day long? So that shut me up very quickly.
Is that right?
Yeah. But yeah, playing with actors was fun. But then you have to deal with things like our fast bowler, one match, he had a ferocious appeal, which would scare most umpires into giving it out. But on one particular match, he turned around and kept whispering, saying, how was that? I said, what's wrong with you? He said, I've got a massive voiceover tomorrow and I don't want to wreck my voice.
Well, no, they couldn't get injured at all, I don't suppose. It would be
Injuries
a disaster.
are, a problem.
Yeah.
A problem.
Yeah. Now, these tours you've been on, I was just looking at the ones. I mean, that's you've done some proper, quite hardcore tours there. I mean, the first one that I had noted down was, I call it the Tufnell Tour. It was the England tour of India in '93, which was a shambles.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a disastrous tour from England's perspective. And which matches did you see in that? Did you do all the 3 tests?
I did all 3 tests. Yeah.
Right.
So
Why?
Why? Well, the thing is, when it got to about November time, if I wasn't working, I knew as an actor there would be no work coming over Christmas. I never did panto. No filming would be starting. So you just look up and see where England were playing,
right.
Get a ticket and go. So I happened to be unemployed at that point, so I had no choice in the matter. Off I went. And I've done a couple of tours of India. I also did I was at the Nagpur game that Cook.
Yes, that was the Cook's debut. Monty Panesar got Tendulkar out.
Tendulkar out, that's right. And it was his debut as well, wasn't it? Monty's debut.
And there's quite a good possible run chase at the end, I seem to recall.
But India is a fantastic place to go and watch cricket.
Yes, of course it is.
You go and in those days there used to be a week and a half between games. It wasn't quite as desperately tight schedule as it is now. So you'd meet a couple of people. I always used to go on my own because no one else could just pick up and go like that. So you'd always meet people. You'd have a week or 10 days to travel from one ground to the next.
Yeah.
And, it's a fantastic way to spend a month or two, the cricket notwithstanding.
That tour, there was a plane strike.
Yes.
And so we went up. So you did the first test in Calcutta.
Yes.
Okay, so we had come up from Bhubaneswar. Mysteriously, the Indian team found some sort of airline that was still operating, but we had nothing. We were on a train overnight with the players in a sleeper, and we chugged up to Calcutta. And that was how our players prepared for that match. So you just flew straight in there? How did you?
I flew to Calcutta and then I trained it around.
Yeah. And Eden
They're
Gardens
quite exciting,
as well.
aren't they, trains?
They are. Well, they are. There can't have been many English people sitting in that ground.
It's hardly anyone. I mean, you're all. I was desperately worried before I went, thinking, would we get in? Would we get a ticket? But actually, I think it was the end of that. Not where was it? It was Mohali. Where was the tour where they played Mohali, Ahmedabad, and Bangalore? That was a few years later, maybe 10 years later.
Yes.
And I remember sitting in the stand. We'd lost in Mohali, and I stayed on, and I think I was probably the only England supporter left at that point, and the whole stand stood up and sang "London Bridge is Falling Down" at me. Which is joy.
Yeah, it is. And sitting there, and that is one of the biggest cricket grounds in the world, isn't it? I mean, I'm about to take it over. Yeah, but to sit there and to sense it, and just even arriving. I mean, can you remember what it was like your first day turning up for a test match?
I mean, India is very discombobulating anyway, isn't it? It's a quite an overpowering sensory experience. You are bewildered almost from the moment you get there, and entranced, and and just trying to find the ground, make your way in.
Yes.
And then to be, because I've seen it so many times on telly, especially during geography lessons when I was 9 and 10. It's an amazing experience. I think it's one of the great grounds to go to in the world and see a match played.
Yeah, I mean they're there this winter.
Right.
It's perhaps not quite. It's more challenging.
It's a bit more challenging, and it's a bit more difficult now. I have 3 children.
Yes.
To just pick up and go. It doesn't go down that well.
Do you remember the Madras test of that series when a large number of the England team went down?
Yeah.
Ill, so Gooch was ruled out ill.
Yeah.
And others.
Yeah.
Mike Gatting dropped a catch. I don't remember it.
I only managed one day because I got ill as well.
Did you? You went to the same dinner, were you?
Phantom illness.
Yeah.
But I spent some very uncomfortable times in a cheap hotel.
Right.
Not feeling very good.
So you did it sort of properly, did you?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Well, I had no money as well because I was just left drama school. So I was scratching around trying to get acting work. So everything was done on the absolute cheap.
Yeah. The Bombay or Mumbai, there was this brilliant run out involving Alex Stewart and Mike Atherton, would-be England captains. That was one of the most extraordinary things.
You were commentating on that whole series?
Yes, we were there. Yeah, watching. I mean, it was a tough tour, wasn't it?
It was a tough tour. How much of that sort of, behind-the-scenes stuff do you... Because you always wonder as a cricket fan listening to you guys, how much are we getting? How much gossip are you... Obviously, you can't, pass on.
Well,
you think we're getting most of the...
You listen to us. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it helps if you stay in the same hotel as a player.
Right.
You obviously pick up stuff.
Yeah.
And so generally on a tour, I do it sort of every other hotel if we can, because it's important to be in touch with what's going on. But that tour, in every way
Yeah, it was
a
tough.
shambles.
It was.
And not helped by the plane strike of getting people around and on the trains. And
Yeah.
it's not what you would normally expect. Then Goffey's hat-trick
Yes.
at Sydney. You were there for that.
I was there for Sydney, the test we lost, Goffey's hat-trick, and I was there at the MCG for the test we won. So I actually saw England win a test in Australia.
Oh, that was an amazing game.
It wasn't amazing. I think we won by 12 runs.
Yes, with Steve Waugh batting on and choosing to bat on.
Absolute treat. My dad took us. My mum was no longer. My mum passed away by that point, so my dad decided we needed a bit of a break. And my dad's Irish, never played cricket in his life, but became friends with several journalists, and actually became an honorary member of the Press Golfing Society. I think he's maybe the only non-journalist ever to do that. And we became friends with Ian Wooldridge and Bill Bateson.
Right. Oh, okay.
So
Wooldridge is a great sports writer for the
great
Mail.
sports
Yeah.
writer. So we went down to. He said, "We're going to go to Australia. I'm not interested in the cricket, but you go if you like." Right. And on a couple of days before Christmas, he said, "Ian's asked if we want to have Christmas dinner with a couple of people called Ian Chappell and Richie Benno." So, do those names mean anything to you? I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Is that right?
Yes. I said, "What?" So we had Christmas lunch with Ian and Barbara Ann and Daphne and Richie Benno, and Ian Wooldridge and his wife. My dad had no clue, really, about cricket at all, and couldn't sort of quite comprehend how this, for me, was the most extraordinary thing I'd ever had. And then all the way through the next two tests, Richie would meet me for a drink after every day's play, and we'd have a drink and he'd discuss the play. It's sort of...
Just a glass of white wine for Rich.
Yeah, exactly. Sort of pinch yourself stuff.
That's incredible, though.
Yeah.
But Dad had no idea.
Dad had no idea. And someone had brought, I remember for Christmas lunch, those sort of things that girls like dealy boppers, those sort of plastic things you put on your head with sort of boingy. Yes. And everyone had been...
Don't say Richie wore one of those.
Richie was the only one who declined.
There is no way.
He declined.
He said,
would you mind if I don't?
Even on Christmas Day, that Richie would wear one of those.
Ian Chappell did, though. And Ian Chappell kept telling me that he'd only just recently started drinking wine, because this was a new thing for him.
Okay.
He'd drank beer his whole life, and he thought wine was not a drink for him. But
two very different characters.
Very different characters, indeed.
Did you meet up with them subsequently? I mean,
yes. Well, not Ian, but Richie. And another good friend of mine, David Norrie, who's a journalist, would host these lunches in London every summer, and Richie would come along, and there would be a whole array of incredible sort of sporting people. There may be only 8 or 10 of us at the lunch, but I remember once being sat between Peter O'Sullivan and Richie Benno. So we had the voice of horse racing, the voice of cricket, and the voice of Postman Pat.
Wow, but that's remarkable, really.
It is for sort of someone who's not involved in the game in any way.
Yes, but who loves it.
But who loves it. So that was fantastic. Goff's hat-trick, I remember standing up and screaming my head off,
Were you down at the hill end, or
I was the opposite side.
You're the posh end.
I was kind of on my own. Well, I got whatever tickets I could scrounge or beg or borrow, so I was in all sorts of different parts of the ground each day.
Did Richie tell story? I mean, I knew Richie fairly well. I worked with Richie, but I was always a bit scared of Richie, simply because when you're in my profession, that is just someone, he's up there.
Yeah.
So I was always a little bit intimidated by Richie, really.
Yeah.
So I socialised with him a couple of times with a glass of Chardonnay, as you'd like, but. I mean, would he tell stories? Would he sit back? I mean, the stuff with the silly hat, he would never wear that.
Never wear that, no.
But was he good company?
He was great company. I remember asking him when was the last time he saw a winter. He said 1963. We would meet in a bar, and there would be a stream of Australians queuing up to pay homage to the great man and say hello to him, and then give a cursory glance at me, think, "Who are you?" To be able to sit with this demigod.
Well, that's an absurd story. It's incredible.
It was joyful.
Well, lucky you. We've got to talk about acting. I mean, we talk about all-rounders. I mean, you have done so many things, and in every format.
Yeah, I don't know how that's happened. It's not been planned, but I think if I'm asked to do something and it intrigues me, I'll try and do it. I think it's partly the challenge. So I started off as an actor and refused to do any acting apart from stage acting for 5 years. I just decided that was the way to be a great actor, was to play the great parts.
Serious stuff?
You know, it's mostly Shakespeare and Shaw and Molière, and so I didn't want to be the fifth person from the left at the National, the RSC. I wanted to play so I'd go all around the country, playing. I did that for 5 years, and then round the world on tours. Toured Much Ado for 9 months to New York and Moscow and Barcelona and Sweden, Paris. So that was fantastic. And then I got the chance to audition to play Adrian Mole. And I'd loved those books. I am the sort of same age as Adrian was. I'd read those books when I was 13 3/4. I was brought in to meet the great Sue Townsend.
Who's lovely. Leicester woman.
What a woman.
She's a view for the back. She was a lovely lady.
Loved it. And she was losing her eyesight at that point.
Yeah.
And she explained to me in the audition that Adrian Mole could not be played by a good-looking actor. And then she brought out a massive magnifying glass and came up to within about 3 inches of my face and perused me all over and said, "You're perfect." so that was when I sort of moved into television. Did play Adrian Mole, ended up playing a doctor in a show for Channel 4 called Green Wing, and that was then I realised that it wasn't just the great parts; it was the people you're working with that are just as important. You learn as much from as the part you're playing. So then I've just taken whatever stuff has interested me, and it has led to a lot of different stuff. Yeah. I mean, that's partly because I've got a sort of itchy brain and I want to try stuff if it comes along. It's partly because I've got 3 big sons who clean me out for food every week.
So you've got to work.
And I don't trust the acting industry to be there for me. I don't think you ever feel comfortable as an actor that you're going to be working. So I suppose you just try and diversify a bit so that if one area of your life doesn't quite come through for you, there'll still be food on the table, I suppose is the idea. But so I've ended up doing presenting. I do that art program for Sky, Portrait Artist of the Year, which is great fun with Dame Joan Bakewell.
Right. You've been to the gallery, by the way. Now it's reopened.
No, I haven't.
Go.
Oh, really?
Oh, in National Portrait Gallery.
Yeah.
Yes, let's go.
Yeah.
Just recently reopened.
Yes, it
Magnificent.
has. Right.
Go.
So we've got the final of Landscape Artist of the Year on Monday at the Royal Opera House. We're on the roof of the Royal Opera House. Nice. They're painting the kind of piazza. We should try. We were at Ascot last summer. We did 2 days at Ascot, and I've always wanted to get them down to a cricket match, but they have these huge, great pods that need kind of 40, 50 feet of width, and unless we stick them around the edge of the boundary, I don't quite know where they would go, or whether there's room on the roof of a stand somewhere. So I'm not sure that's going to work. But yeah, I do stuff on the radio. I do a confessional show on the radio, which I'd love to get you on one day.
Oh, really?
I get.
I've heard about this.
Yeah, Radio 4.
Well, you've come on mine. I'll come on yours.
Will you? Yeah. You have to confess 3 things that you're ashamed about.
Where do I start?
So,
okay, all right.
You feel guilty about.
That's a deal.
We've taken our cue from. Because in the Catholic Church, when you confess, you can't see your confessor. You're both in separate booths. So when we record it, I make sure that we're in separate booths, so we can't look into each other's eyes. I think there's something about not being able to see the eyes of the person you're talking to that makes you open up a bit more.
Is that your idea, that program?
That it wasn't my idea. It's a good idea, but it wasn't my idea. No,
yeah. All right. That's a deal.
Okay.
What's it like? I mean, Richie Benaud in my case, demigod and everything else. I would think for an actor, if you come up with someone who's really well known and very, very famous, is that quite intimidating? And that you've actually got to prove to them too that you're worthy of being on stage with them or in a film with them or whatever it may be.
I think there's 2 different. There's one which is when you work with someone and you hope that whatever the initial impressions might be, that you'll have a good working relationship and there'll be sort of mutual. Respect, or at least a way of living together. It's when you meet your heroes that it can be tough. I was at a film festival in New York, and Robert De Niro happened to be in the same room as me, and I'd never met him. I never worked with him, but what an actor! Yes. I always wanted to meet him. And I'm not the sort of person who can go up to people and go, "Hello,"
can I have a selfie?
Or just a chat. So I really sort of girded my loins. And I had a couple of full starts of walking over to him. And then I saw him on his own and I thought, do it now. So I walked over to him and I said, "Hello, I'm Robert De Niro." And he looked at me slightly confused to start with, and then a bit annoyed. And he said, "No, I'm Robert De Niro." And I had to go, yeah, sure, sorry. And that was it. I had to walk away. So horrendous.
That's disastrous.
Terrible. Don't meet your heroes, and don't be an idiot when you do it like me.
No. You seem a funny fellow. You know what I mean? I mean, do you like comedy?
I do like comedy, yeah.
And you also play straight. I mean, The Split was kind of a bit of a tragic sort of fellow, really, wasn't he? But you do have a great sense of humour, and therefore I would assume you lend yourself to more comedic situations, or not?
I think it's maybe. I think I started off doing drama on the stage, but the audience are 40 feet away on the stage.
Yeah.
Once the camera came in, I started doing television and film. I got a lot of comic work, which I can only assume is because I've got a funny face or something odd about my face that makes people laugh rather than feel, sad or whatever. So, but yeah, I do more drama now. I think you just go with the way the wind blows. And I played a part in Alan Partridge fairly early in my career. Which has, set me off in that sort of path.
When I was reading you and researching it, I saw that you've been in Alan Partridge. Which one's he been in then? Went through it, and there it was, Dan. I mean, it was just that was one of my favourite episodes, and it must be like dear old Joe Mangan who we had on here, and Roger Lloyd Pack, right, Dave? With him, Dan must
follows me everywhere I go.
Must do.
I'm a Tottenham Hotspur fan, and I gave an interview on the pitch at half time, and I had 60,000 Spurs fans all shouting down at me. I've walked inadvertently into, dining rooms or places or, arenas if I'm at a gig, if this chant gets going. Damn. But, there are worse things people can shout at you.
Well, there are, but it is affectionate. Dear old Dan didn't quite turn out how Alan wanted him to be, really.
No,
it didn't. Disappointment.
He was.
What I'm Pointless, which is a program I love watching. I know lots of people do. And again, that's big shoes that is it sort of temporarily?
Literally big shoes.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
But in and out a bit. But are you enjoying that? That's again,
I love
a different sort of a role.
I mean, I love a quiz. I will go anywhere and travel anywhere and do anything. I've been in every quiz I've been asked to do on telly, Mastermind, Catchphrase, Pointless, 15 to 1, Weakest Link, name it.
Did you Celebrity Mastermind?
I did.
I'm doing that in a couple of months. I'm quite scared now.
What up? What's your subject?
Not allowed to say.
Okay. I felt it was like doing an A-level. I worked so hard.
Did you?
Making notes.
How did you get on?
I did all right.
Did you win?
I did.
But the general knowledge...
The general knowledge you can't do anything about. You're either going to get it or you're not. So, it's fun. And it's more fun now that John Humphreys isn't there being terrifying.
Yeah. No, I'm anxious.
Yeah.
Stephen, look, the players are in the middle already. Wendy Leston, following on from Stephen Mangan's view from the boundary with Aggers, can I suggest he invited to be a guest commentator? Very knowledgeable about the game, a great voice for radio, and he'd been an entertaining addition to the team. Great. There you go. I think you've passed the voice and the boundary testing.
Great face for radio too.
That's our well-worn line.
Yeah, I bet.